Hey everybody, welcome to the FreeMind Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today is Tuesday, January 9th. We have Antony Bartlett of RealPlans.com and a double founder day. We also have Shadi from Milonga Mate. Let's jump into conversations, everybody.
Yeah, so I'm the founder and owner of a Cannabis-Infused Yerba Mate brand. So our three initial drinks. So these are I don't know if you've heard of yerba mate before. It's a really healthy tea. Drank a lot in South America, specifically in Argentina, Brazil. I'm of Argentine descent. This is how we drink mate in South America. So we launched the yerba mate brand about 3 years ago, selling the loose leaf tea, which is what you see here. And about 4 months ago, we launched our very own ready to drink version of our beverages. And we infuse them with THC and CBD. So they're actually cannabis infused. They have 10 milligrams of THC, 10 of CBD, organic ingredients. And we have a light version that we're launching next week of 5 milligrams. So this is kind of a functional cannabis beverage. We really like to have people understand that it's a really good replacement to alcohol. It's very unique in its own. It's not something that people can compare to consuming cannabis in other methods. It's much healthier. And we're taking out the stigma of cannabis in general. I used to play professional soccer before this, so I come from a very health-forward background. And with this concept, we're just really excited to get it out on the market. We've launched 3 months ago. We've sold close to 30,000 units already. And yeah, it's growing. We're excited.
Hi guys. My name is Antony Bartlett. I'm the CEO of Real Plans, and we have a Real Plans Pro company too. Real Plans is a meal planner that serves up recipes for people on dietary restrictions. And by that, it can be anything. Your gluten-free, dairy-free, FODMAP, autoimmune, paleo. We don't deliver food. We simply just provide recipes and turn it into a grocery list. And the company has been going for 10 years. And in 2017, we were on the Inc. 5000, and we were the 91st fastest growing private company in the US. So we had incredible growth. And a lot of it was thanks to the partners that we had worked with. And just like in this podcast, where collaborations are just the key, I think, to getting a lot of business done, we got to work with, or do work with, some fascinating recipe contributors and people who contribute in the health space, from Whole30 to Wellness Mama to Nom Nom Paleo, and all kinds of different people who contribute recipes, put them in Real Plans, and then we organize all of these recipes and make a weekly plan for people.
Are you seeing anything you're getting national subscriberships from there, or are you specifically targeting any geographical regions for certain health concerns or anything like that?
We're international. So we have 80% domestic people and then 20% around the world. And in terms of targeting people, the people that we're trying to target is anyone on the standard American diet who is struggling with the many things that Americans face in terms of how they eat and how they're able to get through the day.
And with that said, Shadia, let's talk a little bit about the consumer packaged goods area and how marketing to people today, where a lot more people are concerned about what they're putting in their body and they're reading our labels and they're doing the research ahead of time. How are you kind of filtering through and making sure that you guys are and kind of targeting your qualified area as well?
Yeah, so that's a huge point, and that's a really big priority that we put on our company as well, because we're a company that's very much clean label, very much of a priority on our ingredients. So everything we do is organic. We have very low sugar in our drinks. Most drinks, especially in this category, have like 20 or more grams of sugar. We're clocking in at 2, 5, and 7 for our different 3 flavors. No artificial sweeteners, no artificial preservatives. So I think there's a new wave of people, especially in my generation that we've had a conversation before that they've told me, Shadi, we don't want to be consuming drinks that have something that I can't pronounce, something that I don't even know what it does to my body. So everything we do is very much health forward. And that's kind of the approach that we're doing. And that's something that's being seen more, especially in the younger generations, but it's still in its infancy stage, I think.
Absolutely. And how do, Antony, for yours, how do you all market the recipe-based aspect to, is everything digital? Are you using radio, or kind of how have you evolved your marketing to generate your subscribers?
Purely social,
Yep.
all social media. And also reaching into the communities for the different recipe contributors we have. But each partner that we have, they have a different version of what it is to be healthy, or it speaks to people in different ways. And people have, I think, get very confused over what it even means as to why do you need to eat organic, or why do you need to eat clean, and all this kind of stuff. And also, on top of that, people don't really know how to cook and look after themselves. And so we spend our time really trying to educate people and to help people to actually figure out what it means to be healthy. And we break it down through various means, through, how we post on social media, or how we speak to people once they're in the system about the difference between an organic apple and a non-organic apple, a conventional apple, the nutritional differences. And from my understanding, the mainstay kind of parents' generation is that most people look at an organic label and see the price difference and see that it costs 25-30% more to eat that way. And they're not thinking through the total cycle of cost involved with eating in that way. In 2022, of the 330 million people in the US, only 300 million could afford health insurance, and everyone paid on average around $5,000 a year. And that was just to insure against getting sick. And the reason why people insure themselves against getting sick is because statistically, you're going to get sick in America. I mean, you two are like two fit gentlemen.
Thank you.
54% of Americans can't do 10 push-ups. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
1 in 10 Americans are on some form of opiate, some sort of antidepressant. Over half American adults are on some kind of prescriptive drug, constant prescriptive drug. And all of these are interventions because people don't feel good, don't feel right. They think that there's something amiss with what's going on. So there's various barriers to feeling good, right? There's one, knowing how to prepare food in the first place. And if you're not prepared, or you have some kind of a plan or some kind of idea of what you're going to do, you end up eating sugar on toast. And then knowing how to cook is not enough. You then have to know where to source your food so that it's not covered in windowline, some kind of awful whatever. So I'm interested, how did you get into with your drink? How did it come about that you ended up going organic, and was it difficult to source the ingredients?
Yeah. Well, I really resonate with what you're saying, because I think a lot of it has to do with the house. Since day one, or at least from what I can remember, we were always eating organic. My mom would go to the local farmers market to try to buy most of her ingredients. We used to since I was a little kid, we used to watch documentaries like Super Size Me and how bad, junk food was. And it kind of traumatized me a little bit, because I remember being little and being like, oh, I do not want to put this stuff in my body. I mean, it's terrible. Not that much on the opiate side. That was more later on, where I started learning more about like the pharmaceutical industry and how it controls this country, and like how for this country it's much more beneficial to have you be on painkillers than to be on, to be more knowledgeable of the ingredients you put in your body and everything. So with us since day one, we wanted to build this company out to where it's a product that I would buy for me. Same with my mom, same with my dad and my family. It's a company geared around what would I put in my body, and I would not sell something that I wouldn't consume on my own. So even though it is more expensive, like you said, 25-30% more, some ingredients are even more than that, some are less. We wanted to say, okay, I'd rather have the consumer pay maybe $1 more, knowing that what they're putting in their body is something that we're 100% okay with, and like I said before, I really feel like there's a renaissance for people that are just starting to realize, like, the system that is built in this country, especially, I don't want to speak on other countries, but here in US, I've seen it firsthand a lot, is very much geared around, I'm just going to look at the price tag and base my diet on what I can and can't afford. And it's kind of the way that we are here. Everything is very fast. Also, I lived in other countries and I realized how different just the day-to-day is for Americans compared to other countries, where, like, in US you're always in a rush. You try to find stuff that's already prepared. I lived in Spain, where it's the complete opposite. Like, people want to be in their house cooking after 5. No one wants to answer an email. No one wants to do anything that doesn't have to do with their actual well-being. So I think that's where that contrast led me to say, okay, I don't have to fall into the system of like just buying the cheapest thing because I can afford it more or whatever.
Yeah, I'm just recently in the past 5 years ever paying attention to packages. So I really, when it came to food, I was that. I went through on a cost basis, and then when we started having kids and I was living on my own after a divorce, I learned how to cook. And that was actually the first time when I had learned how to walk the outer areas of the grocery store and stay out of the middle. So that was a learning experience for myself, and it was one of those things that it taught me a lot and actually got me very interested in types of products like what both of you are presenting. So from a standpoint of, I've actually, one thing, Antony, that I was thinking about, I always think about actually when I'm at the grocery store, is companies like yourselves that are the recipe providers and make it easy for people to go shopping. I'm very curious as to why the grocery store channels have not embraced shelf talkers or TVs or anything in the realm to promote your types of services that thus then fund their sales. Like, it's really one of those things that I'm always blown away. It seems like so easy that there could be a shelf talker at the end of an aisle that has some recipe, and then it has your link and QR code or whatever it may be to drive traffic. I feel like that partnership is like what can take the blogs and the recipe types places to a whole new level, is really get into that place of purchase and somebody to see right next to that can of whatever it is, or that fresh meat. It's like 4 different examples of clean ways to eat, and here's the ingredients you need, and take this sheet or take this QR code, and it automatically imports to your phone, and you're walking around and building a sheet off of both. You're benefiting both people in a partnership, similar to what we would do with a consumer packaged good on the shelf. Just taking your digitalizing your product, but then giving it some sort of tangible point of sale to drive that traffic there. Is that something that I'm just not seeing yet, or is that I see like it's an opportunity for everybody to build a volume that would be out of control?
Yeah. I honestly, that's a great idea. That's not something that I've seen either. What I have seen a lot that especially my family uses are any type of application or learning service to be able to know whether or not what I'm going to be consuming is good or bad. I think there's an app here in the US called Yuka, if I'm not mistaken, that you can take a picture of the label and it'll give you bullet points on what's positive and what's negative about that product. My family's a huge fan of that specific app, and there has to be other ones that I just haven't researched. And to your earlier point, I mean, it's normal that someone bases their purchasing habits on their budget. Like, it's something that's completely understandable, and also with their time. I mean, do you really have enough time to sit down and research every single good and bad ingredient in every product that you buy? Probably not. So that's why I think it's more the job of the governing bodies to be able to say, hey, erythritol in drinks is negative for you because of X, Y, and Z. Don't drink anything with erythritol. Same thing with like a bunch of these other ingredients that we can't even pronounce. So I think that's a huge problem in this country, because people just don't have time to research, nor do they have the interest to. So that's where I think we should have governing services tell us what's good and what's bad, obviously as unbiased as possible, right?
Well, the Real Plans, the app that we have, shortcuts the good and bad by just saying, buy a carrot, buy an apple,
Right.
buy an actual ingredient. Like Super Size Me, if you put it in a glass container and it'll go off and start getting moldy within a few days, that's the ingredient for you.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to even go to the level of, is this good or bad? If you only deal in recipes and ways of eating that directly go to basically produce, maybe some flowers if you're going to kind of do some fun stuff like pies or quiches or what have you. And then where you get it from, like you said, going to the farmer's market is way preferable to getting some old moldy bit of broccoli from, a transport that's come all the way from a different country. I think that in terms of having the governing bodies be the ones who do everything, I think we are fighting an absolutely losing battle in this country with that because of the money. You made mention of pharmaceuticals. I prepared a couple of numbers for this podcast because I thought that might come up. 2022, right? This is the year that Statista.com put out their various stuff. And I don't want to bamboozle people with numbers, but I think it's interesting. Pharmaceuticals, the people who manufacture and distribute the drugs, made $364 billion in revenue 2022. And their net profit was $82 billion. So that's their earnings. So that's $1,000 for every single person in 2022. $1,000 in pills, right? The medical insurance companies, which are not part of the pharmaceuticals, and then you start thinking, okay, well, how much are they earning? 1.6 trillion in the same year. I actually, I passed math in school and stuff, but I had to look up the number trillion just to make sure I got it right, because I think in the US and UK it's different. But this is 1.6 million is how much money is made, and they made 24 billion in earnings. And so everyone's contributing $5,300, those that can afford it, just to ensure against getting bankrupt in America should you need to go to a hospital. Because woe betide you if you get sick in America. Because if you don't have gangster insurance of some kind, then you're in trouble. Now, if I get in a car accident, or I need a hip replaced, or I need some IVF going on, modern medicine is absolutely wonderful. But in terms of treating people who are a little bit moody, or they feel like they're a little overweight and they're trying to deal with that, modern medicine is horrific. Like I also am a Tai Chi teacher. So I teach Tai Chi through the week and run this company. And one of my students came up to me and she was worried about her weight. And her doctor a few months ago had set her up with this thing called Ozempic. I don't know if you've read that. It's a major fat loss drug that everybody's now taking. They're making $1 gazillion and everything else. And this drug is addictive. You can't get off it. It's like a subscription that you can't get off. They're trying to target people as young as possible in order to kind of reduce their weight. Now, Stephen Hawking's, probably one of our most eminent scientists of our times, said that we eat too much and we move too little. That's it. That's really our bottom line. We eat too much of stuff, and I would argue the wrong stuff, and we don't move enough. And you have all kinds of people saying, like Joe Rogan is always going, man, just one workout is, 100 times better than taking the stupid antidepressant pill or what have you. If I'm grumpy, I get my ass down the gym and I go and sweat it out and get going. And we are removed from nature. We're removed from our bodies, and we are so tied up in things that just don't matter, and all this smoke and mirrors, which means that no one ever gets to come back to the truth, which is so boring. On the bottom of every medicine bottle, it says to be taken with a regular exercise and a balanced diet. And that statement there is the cure, not the pill. We come from a similar place and background in terms of how we approach things. And so Real Plans is a real attempt to, it's kind of boring. It's like, well, the basic premise is, if you learn to cook good, nutritious, basic foods, you couple that with moving around and getting out there and doing stuff, you won't get into this awful, all of these statistics of, 93% of Americans are not metabolically fit. That means that, they're just overweight, don't have too much cholesterol, too much this, too much that, and the wrong type of cholesterol too, LDL, not HDL. But to get back to grassroots is what I think people need in this country. And if America, I've been here 20 years, so in spite of my English accent, I think of myself as quite the American these days. In order for this country to become great and really be a force to be reckoned with, it's not through this kind of dragging of money into all of these different industries. It's to educating our populace into how to feed themselves and how to take ownership and sovereignty of their lives so that they have a higher standard for themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to make that process, like we were talking about, that speed and convenience, that what people are looking for at the end of the day. Personally, from my experience in the past 5 years, I've learned that when done correctly with recipes from the books that you've aggregated your recipes from Real Food, from Whole, all those different books, those are the same books that I currently have, and those are the ones I was using to get through that process. And I can personally tell you that I knew nothing other than tasty cakes and butter and whatever else, and quickly, like, that became and you work it and you work it. And a lot of people that are afraid to get out and cook, it's just out of repetition. It's a muscle. It's just like anything else. And it took me 4 weeks to kind of burn through and get into it. And after 30 days, I was cruising. It's really one of those things that it blew me away at how fast it kind of picked up. And at the end of the day, the money saving was there. At the upfront part, the per unit price, it was higher than other things that I'd purchased, but the money was there. The energy was there. All of the things you're talking about were, anecdotally for me, all very prevalent in that transition.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think a great point that you brought up is the fact that even though, per unit, it might be more expensive to look into your diet and actually like buy ingredients that are whole and pure, it ends up being net positive in the long run, because like you said, you don't end up wasting so much money on anything health related. And to bring up the numbers that you guys brought up in the past, I mean, not to get super anti-establishment or anything like that, but imagine the trillions of dollars that are put into pharmaceutical companies. That's kind of the way that, in my opinion, governing bodies want to have people under a certain amount of control, because if you have them with all these pharmaceutical pills, constantly depending on that to be able to lose weight, to be able to be more happy, antidepressants on this and that, then you lose power of how much you can actually control in yourself. So like Joe Rogan mentioned a bunch, and a lot of other. I listen to Huberman Lab a lot. He brings this up a ton. It's the best thing you can do is go back to the basics. I mean, look at the best diet in the world, supposedly, is the Mediterranean diet. That's very basic foods. I mean, and that's not something that's super, obviously, if you have certain health issues or anything like that, you need to follow certain diets. But the general public, if they follow something similar to a Mediterranean diet or similar to any type of diet that doesn't involve saturated fats and processed foods and stuff like that, I mean, you'll begin to see how much healthier and energy levels change substantially when someone is having, high sugar intake versus something that's much more nutritious and whole.
Absolutely. And Shadi, that leads me into for your products. Are you in, you have an e-commerce platform that you have for your website. Are you also in retail with the B2B side of things as well in wholesale?
Yeah. So with drinks, a lot of at least the initial stages is selling it to distributors who then sell it to retailers who then sell it to the end consumer. So we're working with a good amount of distributors in South Florida. We have some distributors in the Midwest as well. And even though we launched the brand 3.5-4 months ago with the beverages, we are actively looking to get on distributors. But to your point, I mean, distributors who actually are putting this in stores that are stores that we're targeting. We're not a smoke shop type of product. We're not a high dose product either. So it's very much replacing alcohol or other alternatives of things that people already know that are psychoactive with this, which is much healthier.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I've spent the past 20 years in the food and beverage industry in wholesale and on the supplier side as well as the retail side. And currently our portfolio with our sales agency is alcohol, food products, and also we're in the cannabis space as well. So these your products have a great fit. And I think especially when you get into the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast region, that'll really take it to another level for you.
Yeah, especially in cities where caffeine is so fundamentally important to like the existence of a typical American, like Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks. I mean, if we could find alternatives to that, which is like 50 grams of sugar, all these preservatives that you can't even pronounce. If we can find even a 1% of the audience that drinks that to be able to get behind something as natural as a tea, then that's a win for us internally,
Absolutely. And are your products, where kind of are you seeing the highest rate of sale? Is it in a chain grocery, independent national grocery, kind of where, since you're not in that, you're not in the smoke shop phase and then the vape and all that stuff. So
yeah, so definitely in what would be the co-op sector. In the Midwest, there's a very big trend on co-ops where you buy locally sourced food. So that would be our low-hanging fruit. People who already know what yerba mate is, they already know that they maybe want to drink less coffee or drink less energy drinks. And then definitely anything that has to do with like health and wellness stores, stores that are kind of targeted towards people who don't only want to consume this product to feel the effects of cannabis, but actually want to get other benefits to it. That's kind of where we see the biggest clientele.
Well, you mentioned time and cost there earlier in terms of, people don't have enough time and there's the cost. Once you put a plan together, you buy stuff that actually goes into meals. And when you have a plan, you have a premeditated plan. Before you leave, you can check your pantry and your refrigerator to make sure you don't already have the thing that like the number of times people buy, I don't know, cumin because it's in a recipe and they go home and go, oh, there at the back of the pantry is a full thing of cumin, which I didn't get used last time. So you save a lot of money from that. Then you go shopping, you come back, you cook it, and then part of Real Plans is to help people think through leftovers. So leftovers for me is the ultimate cooking hack. It's not even a hack, it's just education. Just cook double the amount. That's it. You're going to wash up once, all the dishes. You're going to turn the oven on once. You're going to go through the how to prepare once, and you have double the food. So right there is a 50% saving in food prep. And you can always mix and match leftovers once you're done. You've got a bunch of cut up potatoes in your fridge, and you can roast a potato and you can just kind of add them to the random thing you had last night.
I always
it
kind of like the change you pull out and put in the drawer, and then at the end of the year you take it to the bank. It's free money. I look at that and I call leftovers. It's free food.
Yeah. And the premise of this is that, you know, that feeling when you open the fridge and there's literally nothing in it, and you have children that need to eat, or you yourself need to eat, and then you close the fridge door and then you make a deeper wish, like you're looking at a genie lamp, and then open it again in the hope that now there's a 3-course dinner waiting to go. I've done that multiple times in my life. So this mitigates that. This puts, you know, everything in place. So we offer a monthly, a quarterly, and an annual subscription. And the annual subscription is the time saver. It's currently $84. And then we have this pro version of Real Plans, because a lot of nutritionists and registered dietitians, they want to meal plan for their clients and help them through that. And that's a situation where someone needs a mentor to actually get through the trial of learning to cook, or kind of changing their habits at home to do stuff. But all of it, every single part of this process, is setting a higher standard for yourself. In other words, loving yourself a little bit more than you currently do. I deserve better energy. And I think that when, you know, you mentioned you went through your divorce and you had to figure out how to cook, there was a moment there of adversity where you're going, okay, I deserve this. I am worth more than this. How often do you have some nasty thing going on in your house, and then you go to sell it, and then you fix it right before you leave selling the house? Then you go, why didn't I do that 5 years ago for myself? So if you do something good for yourself like that, that ultimately leads to food that you're feeding your loved ones, your children, is now inherently better because the food you're eating is better. And then I think that household, that family unit, is then smiling upon society, and that node of society is now a little bit happier and upholding their contract with everything else, that, okay, I'm not going to be all miserable the whole time because I actually feel pretty good, you know, and that inspires other people. So I think really this you know, charity begins at home and what have you. It really begins at home with your own self and figuring out how you can do that. And Real Plans is, you know, my answer, my team's answer to making that happen, realistically making that happen.
And really, I mean, the way you just put it puts it a different perspective on it from what I just took away. Even is you know, I'll give you each of you guys, I'll do a little bit here and then give you each 30 seconds to kind of close out with anything you want to talk about. But what I would like to say about that is, you know, there really is a lot of negative things in this world right now. And there's a lot of not, you know, whether it be verbally, whether it be people, whether it be society as a whole. And I think that the way you talk about your plans and stuff like that, it really being the core and the keystone of kind of the beginning of your psychological energy of how you attack your day. You know, that's something that, you know, even if just a piece, even if you don't do it for yourself, if you want to do things only for other people, think about that. You know, if it starts with what you put into your body, you know, taking that plan and taking that action and choosing products like you guys produce and those recipes like you produce, and even to the extent that, you know, your customization that you offer in your website allows people to choose their own path. It's not like you're just coming in here and saying this is what we demand you do each week and this is what it is. It's really, it's customization. It's helping out that front end. It's making food not just a fuel, but it is a convenience. It is a thing of fuel, but it is a thing of nourishment. So, Shadi, I'll go with you for about 30 seconds, whatever you want to talk about as far as the rest of your products, and make sure you plug your website as well for people to drive traffic in there.
Yeah, well, first off, I mean, congrats to Antony. I really like the platform you're using. And I think it's also separating the thought process, the heavy thought process of something like this, where you're simplifying it and you're building these plans so that people who don't know are learning through your platform. So yeah, kudos to that. Yeah, so our website, www.milonga, MILONG as in Gary, .life. Milonga.life. And yeah, there's a subscription model if you guys want to check it out. And I'd really like to see the feedback. We're in initial stages, but we're really happy about the growth.
Going on about the terrible things going on in the world, I think as well as nourishing our bodies, we need to nourish our minds and think about the organic things you can put in your mind, like learning something new or doing something or being of service to someone. That's nourishing to the mind. And I think that once you start eating right,
you're looking for a way to grow your business, reach new customers, and increase your sales. If so, you need the FreeMind Group, founded in 2008 and a provider of creative and strategic solutions for the food and beverage industry. Whether you need branding, marketing, product development, or innovation, the FreeMind Group can help you achieve your goals and unleash your potential. Visit our website at thefreemindgroup.com to get a free consultation today. Thank you for listening. See you next time.